Okay, welcome everybody. Everyone can hear me fine? Cool. All right, just intro. I'm Ben Lee, co-founder and managing director of Blowfish Studios. We're a small indie studio in Sydney. This talk is about what's entitled, Organising Chaos into a Piece of Art. I have been told it was put under maybe in the art stream in the brochure, but it is about production, so not about art so much. Of course, there's art in there. So yeah, let's begin. So, producing a video game, is pretty difficult. I think, is everyone here in game development at the moment? Yep. Yes. Everyone here would fully understand the complexities of trying to get projects completed, to a schedule, and that applies to whether it's 3 months or 2 years. So at Blowfish Studios, we've done many projects, as I'll go through soon, and some they range from anywhere from 3 to 4 months out to 2 years or more. So we've had a fair bit of experience in trying to keep projects going to completion over those different timeframes. And in this talk, we'll just go over what tools we use and what processes we use to achieve that. So first, we'll just go over the history of development. So you can see over the years. So we've been going since 2010. So when we started, there was only 2 of us, myself and my co-founder, Aaron Grove, who's a creative director. So back then I was handling programming and business, and he was handling all the art side. So here you can see broken down into years since 2010, and the yellow ones are games that we've published for ourselves, and the rest are projects that we've done for clients. So you can see that we started off just as an indie studio doing games for ourselves, and then we picked up clients along the way as they've seen our games and asked us to create games for them as well. You notice at the beginning, of course, it's just mainly just our games, as we're pushing through those. And then as we started completing and performing more projects for clients, our own game development did slow down, but the games got larger as well. So back in 2010, Cubism, it was just a mobile-only game, and then as we've progressed, there's still 2011 was mobile only. 2012 we moved into web plus mobile. 2013, and then all the way through to 2015 is when we started doing our first PC and console games. So now we do mobile, web, PC, and console games, all thanks to Unity. So we are a Unity dev house. And now you see in 2017 we've got an unnamed non-game. So my background is engineering. So now we've met people that have seen what we can do with games, and they want to bring that into they have apps, so they're getting us to kind of do gamified apps for them. But then because we do have a very good core engineering team, then they've asked us to go to do more core engineering, so back-end servers and things like that. So, and then the Dear God, we're actually starting. Oh, that's right. Sorry. I'll try to keep going. So, and also the Dear God, Crescent Moon. That's our first kind of publishing title, and that's a strange one because Crescent Moon, I don't know if you might not know, but they published our original game Siegecraft under mobile. So they're actually a mobile games focused developer and publisher. And Josh, the owner of that, I've got a very good relationship with him. And so now we've started publishing his games onto consoles. So because he doesn't have that kind of that support for himself. So we are a quiet studio. So we haven't had any huge successes as like some of the other people that will be, they're around here and around in Australia. But we have managed to keep going since 2010. So as I said, we started in my small apartment in Five Dock in Sydney. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. We had, as we were ramping up, we had 10 people working out of my 2-bedroom apartment for a few months before we could move out. And we had clients in there and sitting on a coffee table and stuff like that. And I guess because we've stayed quiet and a little bit, not too showy, I guess, then our clients have been very understanding of how we've run our business. We got kicked out well, we kicked ourselves out because me and my wife had a baby, so we needed the room back, and we went to a small studio in Five Dock, just locally. And then a year ago, we moved to North Sydney just because we'd outgrown the Five Dock place, and we're actually picking up a lot more domestic work as well. So we now get a lot more domestic projects as well as overseas. You can see just last week or the week before, we actually won the New South Wales Export Award for small business, which is really great for us. It was nice to have that kind of achievement, especially since we haven't really focused on selling ourselves to people. We don't have a sales and marketing team. Let's put it that way. All right, so scheduling chaos, and as we'll go through, you'll see why for us it really is development chaos. So nearly all our client projects are created for marketing. So they do have very specific launch dates. Our two biggest clients are Scholastic and Marshall Cavendish, which are both book publishers. So obviously they kind of they have their book launches. They printed all their books. We're ready to go on this date, and we need to have usually web and mobile games ready for those specific dates. To date, we have not missed a launch deadline. We've launched, and there might have been a couple of bugs, but nothing critical. Around launch, there's been a couple of late nights, but we don't do any crunch at all in the studio so much. People work 8 hours a day. But yeah, so we'll go over what are the tools and resources and processes that we use to kind of achieve this. So here's a screenshot there of kind of a bit of chaos, one of our latest games. All right, so studio makeup, human resources, management, business. We got one to two people, and you'll see there's like a lot of kind of something to something, because at the last point, we do have shared responsibilities. We're our indie studio. Production, we got 1 to 3 people. We're ramping that up now, so we actually, we have a lot more producers now. Myself being one of them, and then another full-time producer, and then another outsource or somebody who helps produce on the client sides. Our biggest clients are overseas in the US and Singapore. So we have in Singapore we've got a guy that he's basically the liaison and also a producer on that side. 6 to 7 programmers, again myself included for a little bit when I get to. Artists 6 to 7, and this is not including. So these are all full time. So this is not including our contractors, consultants, QA and PR. So we have some consultants or contractors there on a part-time basis, but we also outsource our PR. So we've got a retainer PR company in the US to help us out. They're a game-specific PR company. Sound effects and music, it's completely outsourced because we don't have any audio facilities in our studio. Something that I would like to change if we ever, when we get big enough. The very first game company I worked for back in 1998 they actually did most of their outsourced work or their work for clients in audio. So they had their own audio studio, which took up half the studio, and the rest of the half was like dedicated to programmers and artists. So because it's very important. It's just tough, I guess, to have everything covered in your own studio. In game design, so in game design, everyone kind of is involved. Some people will be the lead game design on a project or a group of people, but everyone is involved, and it just depends on the game type as well, because we do many different types of games, different genres. So obviously it's hard to find a game designer that can cover all the different genres of games. So we do role-playing games, strategy games, first-person shooters, puzzle games. So we do quite a lot. Adventure games. And also there, including clients. So on the client work, they also obviously have a lot of big input into the creative and game design direction. So I think full-time we've got about 15, 16 people, and then we've got about 5 contractors we have. And this is all in Sydney, so they're all local. They're not around the world. The sound effects, music, biz dev and PR are offshore. Again, it's just finding people though that are in our target markets, so that helps us quite a bit. But yeah, so as you can imagine, being in Sydney, it's pretty big having a 20-person studio there. All right, tools. So I've gone over the people. So these are the tools or the software tools that we use. I'll put producers there. Yeah, it's a pretty rough presentation. I haven't had a chance to really go over it, but you're just getting my raw thoughts here. So we use Trello as a big one for the task and issue tracking. I'm just going to go over these in summary here, and then I'll go into each one. So I can just say why we're using it and I guess how well it's working. We're using Slack now for the communication, and it's also great for tool integration, which is why we're using it. Dropbox, just because it's super easy to share documents with people that aren't part of your business usually, and also just for keeping backed up things. It's no good though when a virus gets into your Dropbox and starts renaming things or stuff. Google Docs for project docs, Network Drive for project assets, and that's listed separately, as you'll see for why in a little bit. We use GitLab for source control now for programming, and Jenkins as a build server for doing builds. Okay, so Trello. I don't know. Is there anyone else here use Trello? No, it's cool. With half, yeah. So yeah, it's a web-based project management tool. See the last point, we did try Jira. The artists didn't like it. So reason why we chose Trello was for its simplicity to help engagement with the programmers and artists and everybody else. I've been working in software development teams for quite a while, because since '98, and getting people to use these kind of tools is always a bit of a task. So you really want to try to choose a tool that, one, suits your processes, but then also is it's very easy to use for the people that are using it. Trello is great also because you can give visit access to outside people, as well as having your own studio. It is definitely not perfect. It is one of the one of the more casual issue and tracking tools. And we've tried a lot of things with it to try to get it to suit game development specifically. But it is. So the advantage is next point. So it's very flexible. So because of that, we still stick with it. I always do. We look at new tools that have come out. So there's like Favro, which is kind of a new version, like a bit of Trello. There's some game development specific ones which we've heard of. I've looked into those and we haven't moved to those yet, or haven't tried it out yet. There was some points about why not. But for example, in Trello, the flexibility is that we have very large projects, so we'll have multiple boards. So Trello, if you don't know, is just basically a big Kanban board, but it's a big board. You just put tickets on it, and you can assign people and priorities. And see here, so there's boards. It's very good for artists because you can have lots of images and things on it. But you can see if you look at one of those boards, it's like you don't know what the hell's going on. So basically, there's columns, there's lists, and you have tickets on there, and it's up to you to decide how you move those tickets through the board. So that's the thing about it being flexible. Many different people will try different things. So we've tried things where you have backlog to do, in progress, review done, and that's pretty standard, and that works really well. But then it doesn't work quite so well through the artist pipeline. So that's why in some projects where we have the larger projects, we have a separate art Trello board and a separate dev Trello board, QA, and then even the client might have one as well for giving us requirements and specs. They cut off a bit on my screenshot, but on my Trello board, I've got like 25 boards down the side that I have to keep track of and I go through. But I like it. It's easy. It's fun for me. So yeah, you can see it is very visual, so it does help with artists and programmers working together. But it is chaotic, so there is very little structure around it that's enforced by Trello, which is something like Jira will enforce on you. Again, that's another point to the chaos. Right, so Slack. We used Skype as our main communication tool within the company for quite a long time until, I believe, to me, it started going downhill quite badly as soon as Microsoft bought it. They just stuffed it up, and you could do direct transfers over your own local network, and it would take nothing. As soon as Microsoft bought it, and they started uploading it to the server first, and so it took forever just to send a 100 meg file to each other. So it kind of, it wasn't that great. So with Slack, the custom integration that you can achieve with it is a huge bonus. So you can build just integrations yourself, or other people have built integrations for Slack. So one of the ones that we do is, I mentioned Jenkins, our build server. So my lead engineer has basically made an integration. So you can go to the Slack channel called Build Machine, and you can see there I've typed in just a command called Jenkins run Horizon version update iOS. And what there's many different arguments you can send into it, but that's basically just triggered a build on the build server. Version updater is kind of a type of build which will update the version. So this will automatically upload it to test flight for us as well. We still got to go into test flight, obviously, and just say, approve it or make it public, push it public. But Slack lets anybody do this. So anybody in our studio can trigger a build, and certain things that aren't here. So you can also, so we have dev kits. So we do console development. So we've got Xbox One, PS4 dev kits. They're floating. They got names. They can move to whoever. From Slack, you can say, build this project, PS4, this dev kit. It'll build it and then deploy it to that dev kit as well. So then, within about 15 minutes, you'll have the build there on your dev kit, and you can play it. So it truly is very powerful. The reminders are good. You can tell it to remind you about certain things. It's got Twitter integration. You can have guests as well, so you can have a guest account. We do use the paid version, so you can have a guest can join one of your channels for free, but then you got to pay more if you want them to join more. And custom emojis are handy. So it's also a good voting tool. So you can make custom emojis and put them on a message, so people just play around doing voting on stuff. It's actually been very good for us. The Dropbox. So it's mostly used for sharing files with clients, platform holders and contractors. Everyone knows Dropbox. Why we use it over, say, something like Google Drive. I think for me, just integration into Mac OS is just easier, nicer. It was one of the things I used first. So I guess moving to Google Drive or something, it's a bit more extra work, and no real need just yet. We use it for sharing builds and marketing materials with the platform holders. So generally, I don't know if you know, but when you're submitting to like Sony or Microsoft, they'll have their own platforms where you can upload, but sometimes their platforms crash and die, and so you send them a Dropbox link and they say thanks, and you're talking like a gigabyte file. So you don't, it's just very handy. A lot of companies say they can't take Dropbox links, and that's fine. So it's not perfect, but it lets you do a lot of things quite nicely, and keep all our business documents there. When I'm not one that's overly worried about security, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. That's why I don't care, because I don't really, I'm that way inclined. But we haven't had any problems yet, so fingers crossed. Google Docs. So Google Docs are used mostly for working files, like game designs, game stats, spreadsheets, scheduling, timesheets. Those documents that are really suitable for collaboration, like multiple people working on the same document at once. There's not that many other tools which let you do that safely. I've known a lot of people, some people that have actually lost a lot of documents trying to do some kind of same thing in like Microsoft Office, and they hated Word because it lost one of their versions. So Google Docs is great for that. This presentation done Google Docs as an example of chaos. So in this presentation, I just chucked down all my thoughts onto a slide. Then Aaron came along and just made it all pretty while I was still modifying it. I had a couple other people come in and put their comments there, and they put them comments, and I got to add their bits to it. So it's handy for working that way. And So live game builds can also access Google Docs. So if you have, so we do use it for game databases for dev, not for live. Live we use other things, but yeah, so it is very handy for that, and you can set it up that way. So the network drive, we have a network drive, keep all our project assets on there, artist working files, because, and again, this is in, I mean, obviously GitLab sits on a network drive as well, but this is a network drive that we share to keep assets directly on, just because the artist working files are too big to keep in GitLab. Katie here is from Blowfish, you know, she does like Photoshop files and it can be like hundreds of megs, and you don't want to put those. Yeah, so we don't want to put those anywhere near GitLab because it'll die. We do have a nightly backup to the cloud. We use AWS, so we back it up onto AWS. And we can do that now. We used to do it in 5doc where we had the worst internet, where we had like 50 kilobytes upload. It just would run for weeks, the first one, and then some weeks it'd just run for weeks again. Now in North Sydney we've got super fast internet, and it's not the NBN, it's TPG fiber. It's like 400 megabits per second, up and down, so it's amazing. It's made our work that much easier and better. And I mean, it really is really good. And at 5doc, I used to have to tether my phone sometimes and hold it out the window just so I could upload to iTunes, because we're under a deadline, and until you have that deadline and you have to upload the build to meet that deadline, you sometimes don't realize how important the fast internet is. So it's very good. GitLab. So GitLab is our project source control. We migrated from Unity Asset Server. We were using Unity Asset Server for quite a long time. Again, that was a choice because it's fully integrated into Unity, so it's very easy for artists to use. Moving to GitLab though has been quite, we did some training sessions. We've always got some of that help, so it's been okay. Took many months to sort everything out, especially for the large file sizes, because some of those source controls don't handle them very well. Also, most of our development is done on Mac, so I guess we've kind of got a mixed environment though with Mac and Windows, because Windows is required for building for different platforms with Unity, like the consoles and things, but then Mac is needed for iOS and things like that. But yeah, so GitLab is a lot more flexible, and it can do, again, it can do custom integrations with the rest of the tool chain, like we saw with Slack as well. So that auto version updater would actually, go update the version number of the project for us, and before uploading to TestFlight, just so it doesn't clash, and so Apple would accept the build. All right, Jenkins. So Jenkins is our build server. It's been configured. Well, he's been configured to do many different things for different platforms. So for iOS, like we were saying, it can build, can then can upload to TestFlight. It can also provide a download URL on our local web server, so you can just download the app if you want to your phone if you're on the provisioning profile. You can build and upload for Steam, so it'll upload for Steam. You still got, again, in all these cases, you still have to go and push it public, but it's already there for you. Again, I mentioned build, deploy to PS4 and Xbox One dev kits, and for standalone, does the same thing with the download URL. Android as well does the build and download URL. I don't think it does the upload though. It has a Slack integration, so you can do all that via just text commands into Slack. You've got automated nightly builds and version number incrementation. And also, after every time someone commits, it'll do a quick scan for platform-specific errors, because some of our projects can cover like 5 platforms. So it's very easy for someone to make a code change, and then we'll break it for a different platform. So it'll go run a quick build, and then it'll just say, all right, this commit doesn't work for this platform, and then it tells you straight away. So that's very handy. See here, this is just a kind of example of all our projects there. All right. artist pipeline. So these are all just all the tools that we use with regards to art. Initially, we started using Modo for 3D just because it was cheaper and there was no Maya LT, or there was an LT but didn't have the features we needed. Now we use mostly LT because you got the subscription, it's pretty cheap, and it's quite good. Our animator uses the full version of Maya for the animation tools, but people that are just doing 3D assets just use LT. ZBrush and 3D Coat for various things to do with doing nice sculpts and textures and bakes. Substance Designer obviously for doing materials, and all of these things have really, I guess, come of age over the last 6 years as well. So everyone is kind of working on all the tools, like all the different companies, and it's been really, really good. Unity as well. So Unity's improved a lot. We're yet to move over to the new Unity subscription scheme, so we'll be doing that, I guess, in the new year. We'll work with them, see how that goes. But it sounds like it'll be fine. We've considered Unreal and other things, but I guess as you can see, we've built up quite a big, process and pipeline. So it's pretty tough for us to move right now. Development for integration. So Unity, do everything C# scripting. We have Mac and Windows machines to cover all the deployment platforms. Nobody actually works 100% on a Windows machine at the moment. That might change because there are some tools now that people want to use that are Windows only. We've had converts. People come, obviously they love Windows, but now even my number one guy, programmer, he goes, ordered him a new MacBook Pro. And I said, you could have the option to get a Windows machine. And he goes, actually, I like Mac now, so that's cool. So sticking with that. Obviously, that's not for everybody, but that's fine. We've got dev kits, so we've got tons of dev kits. We've got PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Wii U, Vita. We get Oculus Rifts, HTC Vives. So we've been pretty lucky in getting half of that hardware probably for free. It's good. Xbox Ones are free, HTC Vives are free, and the Rifts are free. So that helps a lot. We do have a dedicated VR room because we are getting quite heavily into virtual reality for both ourselves, like our own games and client games or client projects. So having a dedicated VR room just means it's easy just to send a build and then just jump in there. And that's for the HTC Vive because it's the only VR you actually need a room for. Everything else you can do at your desk, so that's fine. We use Google and Unity Analytics for analytics. Google Analytics is great for real-time stuff. So when you launch a build, and that works on consoles, works on mobile, works on standalone. So you can see when just what people are doing at that time in your game. Unity Analytics has some powerful free features that you don't have to set up, so it's good for if you're doing engagement and retention, that sort of stuff. It handles all that, but it's built in. Some Unity services we use, so the Crash Reporter, Social, and the IAP plugins, or built-in features. Crash Reporter from Unity is actually they're improving it right at the moment, so we're part of the beta for that. So they're actually improving that. So actually give you useful crash reporting as opposed to whatever it does now, which is not that great. And they're actually building in some more performance reporting too. So even though it's called Crash Reporter, they're actually building in more performance reporting, but they've only, I don't know, they've only just started doing that. So they were looking for features that we would want in there. And we have a few shared code base and libraries that we've built ourselves. So we've got Blowfish tools, which is basically just random tools that we found that people really use inside Unity. One is a build tool. So Unity is great for targeting many different platforms, but currently there's nothing in there that helps you do that. Like to track all the changes between what you need in the project for iOS, Android, standalone or console. So we've had to build our own thing. I think they are working on something. So basically we just have build plans inside our project. We have a tool there where you let you load different build plans. Actually, Kyle, one of my lead engineer, he did a talk about it last year here. So that's very handy. Now we've built up some console tools because we're getting more into console. So things like for achievements, logging in, checking whether you're on the internet, just basic things like that. But we now have a shared module that will work for all different platforms. So we just make a single call into it, and then it'll do it. It'll use whatever code's needed for the right platform. Other things like pathfinding, internationalization, split screen audio library. Because Gunscape, the game we launched start of this year, kind of ended last year, we put 8-player split screen in there for Xbox One. And one of the big things was we did it. We did, oh, this is great. And then someone said, what about the sound? It's like, oh yeah, like when you're doing sound for games, it's just weird for split screen because you've got 8 different people, and obviously you can't. It's very hard to mix it all. So we just did some kind of funny hack that makes it sound like it works. The difficulty now moving to virtual reality is we also need to be able to cater for full 3D spatial sound. So yeah, we're having some issues with that, but we'll sort that out. So process. So I guess the big thing is different clients require different processes. Some like weekly meetings and shared Trello boards. They're a lot lighter on like touch-wise and that way. Others require daily calls and separate issue tracking systems. They're really good clients to us, so we're very flexible with how we work with each and every one. And again, that's fitting into this whole chaos part in that everybody's working on nearly all the projects. So I guess wrapping your head around the way things work for different projects is quite hard. So we need to have good producers and people that are very flexible. Artists and programmers alike mostly don't like jumping between things. They'll do it like if you're talking about 6 months to 3 months. But when you say, all right, today or half a down this, half a down that, they go, But everyone's been great. We've built a really good team, and so that it's working at the moment. Our own internal projects, we just keep experimenting with process. Like we know that we don't have the perfect process, perfect tools, so we just keep trying things. Someone will complain about something, and so then we'll try that differently. And I guess that's how we come up with, when we get a new client or we have a client, we'll propose changes to them. Just say, this is can we try this? And sometimes they'll say yes, and sometimes they'll say no. We tried sprints and stand-ups, and we do project meetings still. We don't do stand-ups anymore. And sprints is a strange one. So again, trying to be flexible. We have some people that really like to be told what to do for a certain amount of time. So we actually have some people on a sprint. This might sound really strange, but we don't do sprints for projects, but some people will work inside a sprint because if they don't, they find it very difficult to work. So again, the more I think about what we do, the more chaotic it actually is. Project teams. So artists are very skill specific. So nearly every artist will work on all the projects. Because out of the 6 or 7 people we have with us at any one time, we've got 2 concept artists, 1 animator, 1 technical 3D artist, and then 2 to 3 modelers and texturers. So because they are very specific, obviously for a 3D project, everyone will need to touch that project and work on it. While programmers are mostly generalists, so they actually get assigned to specific projects. So they won't work on every project. I guess it sounds logical, sensible, and it works. Support staff, work across all the different projects. There's photos from when we were in 5doc, a little bit squeezy, but everyone has fun, so it's good. I used to actually call it, like, when someone asks us what we do, I say it's super agile, but then everyone thinks, oh, it's actually like agile, but beyond. And I just mean agile in the sense of the English word. So maybe we just call it, chaotic methodology. So it's just, anything goes, and we try different things. And look, it actually does work quite well. We've pulled it across onto this non-game project, which is, it is very much a core business application and server, and we're developing it in the same way, and it's working. It helps that we can show the clients that we use this way of doing things, and it works on all our other projects, so they trust us. So yeah, like I said, so far it has worked. I guess when it doesn't work is when we're in trouble. But again, it's been 6 years, so it's been pretty good. And the big thing is parallel development. So you will most likely start with, say, a prototype, and you build that and you test that, and it's fun. But then after that, you've got to get everything going. Our timers are very aggressive. So to do that, we do have parallel development where everything is being worked on at the same time, but it's not integrated. So at any point in time, you really can't just jump into the game and play it with all the latest stuff, because it hasn't been integrated by the art hasn't been brought in by creative director Aaron, or it hasn't been integrated with code. So it is a bit of a mess until you get towards the end. But then once we pull everything together, and then everything's together, because everyone's been working on it and still involved with it, we can iterate very quickly, and we can polish a project extremely quickly. So we only need a matter of weeks, right? So once you integrate everything and it's kind of working, you just give us a few weeks, and then it'll look like it's nearly ready to be launched. Obviously, then you need to fix all the bugs, which can take a while. Risk mitigation. So it is very risky. So we do constant schedule assessment. We reprioritize team members when required based on this. And what helps is that we're doing our own projects while we're doing client projects. So at the moment, our own projects are the ones to suffer if we need to add some more resources to a specific project. But it helps because we're doing our own projects, that we have the resources. They're full time. They're there. If we need to throw someone on for a short time, like half a day to a week, then we can do that. Having well-defined specifications, and this is something that we could do better, because game development, it's very hard to fully define what the game is that it will be at the end. You can start defining features, you can do your game design, but then as you do more complicated game design, you'll figure out that didn't work, and you need to change things. So things do change quite a lot, but you just try to define things as well as you can. Pieces of art. Again, see, I didn't put all the pictures in here, so Aaron put a photo of me in there doing some VR ironing. He brought the ironing board in, because you can see the green screen in the background has creases in it, so he was meant to go and iron them all out. So hasn't been done yet. So while all games are not perfect, and I don't believe any game ever is, and it's not as polished as the creators ever like, you could work on a game forever. That I believe, or we believe, they've all been very successful at bringing fun and enjoyment to the players. So like our games, not every game gets tons of players, but things like Siegecraft had 1.5 million downloads when it came out. Spirit Animals for Scholastic has over 500,000 registered players. The later ones we get over 100,000 players easily, so it's not too bad. And of course, we continue to attract high caliber clients, and that's always through the projects we've done ourselves. As I mentioned, we don't actually have someone out there trying to sell our services and get clients, because our core focus is on our own games. And a lot of times you'll hear, if you're a studio that does work for hire and your own stuff, your own stuff will suffer. But we're aware of that kind of thought, or the thoughts around that. So, and we are constantly trying to just work on our own stuff and make sure that we can become fully independent just on our own IP as well. All right. So I mean, gone through all the things that we use and that we do. I guess how do we make it work? Maybe the phrase is kind of wrong. You can see there's a little that GIF. That's something that went wrong. There's a little lizard man. He's binding, or his binding's gone off, and his mouth is contorting. So we use all the resources, tools, and processes that we've gone through. We've built up a very capable team. Yes, two of the people have been with us for 5 years now, nearly since we started. A few more have been there 4 years. It is difficult. There is not a lot of money in game development, but there's a lot of enjoyment. I mean, that's why I do it. I quit my job and did this because I love making games. So it's not a job. The studio is led by people like myself and Aaron and our seniors that can actually are experts that can do the work. So I think that helps a lot in that if we need to, I guess, review what someone's telling us or how a project's going, we can actually do that rather than being a business person solely or around that. So I think that has helped us, and we also deal with all the clients. Yeah, we have had a bit of luck, obviously, with the features we've gotten and the partners we've picked up. But I think that it is only through lots of hard work. For example, for the Siegecraft, we got invited out to Cupertino, so I actually flew out to Apple and had a 3-day workshop with them, and they showed me how to integrate their latest Game Center stuff. That was back in 2011. And we've been launch partners on lots of tech with NVIDIA and Google and Microsoft. So again, it's just building up that kind of, I guess, relationship with people. It really helps. It really is chaotic development, and it does lead to stress in our clients sometimes. But it's doing well. All right, I'll just quickly show a trailer. I don't know. Before we have questions. This is the latest game. I don't know. Oh, there's no sound. Sorry. All right. You can see this. So this is our new game, Siegecraft Command, is coming out next year. It kind of sucks that the audio does help it a lot. And this one is for PC, consoles, and virtual reality as well. So we outsource this to a company in the UK. We do try to use as many contractors and consultants in Australia as we can, but considering that we're competing globally, we need to also look at whatever resources we can use globally to achieve what we can in the best budget. Cool. I will say, yeah, we're showing this off at PAX as well. So if you come to our booth at PAX, come visit. We are actually looking for a programmer and maybe a producer. So if I don't know if anyone knows anybody that might be interested, come grab a card and get them to email me. Otherwise, any questions?
So with each game that you make, what exactly do you try to do to make sure that the next one you make is going to be even better? And yeah.
How do you define even better?
Well, hard to say.
Yeah, like technically, game-wise, game design, bigger, smaller, less time.
I don't know. I want to say obviously more sales would probably be the easiest thing to say, but like gameplay obviously, and yeah, probably just gameplay wise.
I mean, gameplay-wise, it's iteration and just trying it and giving it the time it needs. Siegecraft Commander we started maybe now 3 years ago. It was very different back then from the prototype to what it is now. Like we prototyped this in say a couple of weeks using assets from the previous game, and then we've spent the last 3 years building it. And it started off as a multiplayer only game. Then we knew we needed a campaign, so we put the campaign in, and then playing that. Then we had to rebalance some of the towers and the way you play, and then we just kept playing it. And then I guess where we felt like it was going to do really well is that with our PR company, they've been really good. We'll send them a build and they'll tell us whether it's ready to go, send out for previews. And when we get the feedback from someone who's not part of the studio and hasn't actually played it, they go, oh, this is actually, we've got stuck into it, it's really cool. So that's really helpful. And I think a lot of it is experience, just trying, building lots of games and getting better at that. Still playing games, if you like or you love a genre in particular, then you might be better suited to building, game designing that kind of game. I think that's a hard one. To say get better at game design.
I'm just running with your process when you're talking about like you guys tend to, because you have parallel development, and then when you get to the end of the cycle, that's when you start to really put it all together. Don't you worry that before you've gotten there, you aren't aware of like major flaws in the design, and that they could possibly completely break a project when you get to the end? Like you've spent 3 months, 6 months working on it, and you've got these like month or two that you're out from release, and then you hit a wall.
So it's not like everything comes together all at the end, but as things are ready, they get pulled in. So you'll still be able to do the kind of the vertical slice for demos and things like that. So you have to spend the time, and then we work with clients, they'll have a milestone where you have to have something together. But there's only a few of those, and so then a lot of the other work is just done in parallel. The biggest issue that comes up about how you're saying is performance, because when you bring everything together and then you put it and you run it on the the deployment hardware, that's when you can get into trouble. But we've had a lot of experience doing that, so that's part of the polishing phase. In that, okay, we get it there, we need to kind of tweak it. We'll already start out knowing kind of like poly count and just in general don't do too complex shaders because they will kill nearly everything. So I guess we are not AAA development. We are not focusing on doing that AAA stuff. We just indie game. We try to make very solid games. So we don't necessarily push the hardware too much. So it's we'll have a few safety nets that way.
When you're doing your planning processes, do you do much in the way of documentation, like feasibility reports and things like that, or do you tend to dive straight into
Not so much feasibility reports. We do. It's kind of strange. We actually used to do more documentation, and now we actually do less. And that's even with clients. We'll do a game design document. But then it just changes so quickly, and it's tough. We know we have to kind of push it back, but it's like when you've got your product that's improving, you've got the hard kind of data and spreadsheets that you're working off that are always changing, so you still have that. That is one thing that really suffers obviously in this kind of development process. So the answer is no. Oh, yeah, sorry.
just when you're allocating tasks, how deep do you get down into that, or is it just things like this is what sort of you don't use management software like Project or anything like that?
It's all done through Trello, but some of the tickets on Trello can get pretty big. We have so what we'll do is we'll have some tracking tickets, which have a lot of checklists, which then point to other tickets, and then those little tickets have like specific tasks that people have to do, and then you kind of mark stuff off that way. So again, Trello is kind of useful that way. But we can get down to very specific, like a QA board. So we've got a QA board, and we've figured out the kind of the formatting of those tickets, and and then to fix those, we have very specific tasks. So it's very flexible that way.
You mentioned you sort of you put individual programmers on different projects. How do you manage
which project, like which programmer goes on to the fun project versus maybe like the client one that's a bit more sort of boring or sort of keeping morale up that way?
So we do try to make sure that everybody gets to work on a bit on our own projects as well as our client projects. But we're very lucky in that our client projects are actually very fun, and because we do games, so we do full game development. They'll come to us and we'll make a game. So I think, and everyone has takes a sense of pride in their work. So it hasn't been that difficult. We haven't had any projects that are it's like I really don't want to work on this. Even this one that's not a game, people working on it wanted to do it because because it's not a game. I get to work on something a bit different that way. And because, again, like I said, we don't have like crunch or anything, so people aren't stressed out. I think if you add stress to somebody, it'll make you dislike what you're doing more. So if you still just able to work on it and have fun, and the clients are great. Like our game launches are, they go fully public and they're for kids, and kids have a lot of fun with them. So it's still, it's great. You still got to make a game, and kids have fun. You just don't have like sales numbers or figures that come to your studio, but as a game developer, you don't really, as long as you're getting money, then it's the same thing, right? So.
What do you guys do for morale management or morale boosting?
So, yeah, I mean, morale aside, I mean, Friday games, so, they'll play games. That's what I was saying for the voting on Slack. Every Friday, so who wants to play whatever game? You nominate a game, and then everyone votes on it, and people do that. At the moment, they're playing like an 8-player Dungeons and Dragons game at lunch, spread over a few weeks. We do lunches every now and then. Last year, the year before, we brought everyone to PAX. Some people get to go overseas, so we're at TGS last year, so some people got to Japan. GDC, so we send people around like that. When we won the awards for the Export Awards, we had a whole table, so we had brought people necessarily didn't come along for that. And again, the whole note, like as little stress as possible, helps a lot as well for morale. And the bigger companies can, like Google and stuff, they do that through other ways. We can't afford to do it those ways, so we're very understanding that we can't afford to do that, so we try not to give too much stress other ways. Saying that, we have high expectations. If we do not build the best products that we can, then we're going to fail, and we're not going to get more work, and our games won't sell, and then we'll all go away and do something else. It is a very fine balance. We do have turnover in the studio, but we've also built up a very capable team. I've only lost 2 people that I didn't want to lose. One because he travelled to Canada because he wanted with his girlfriend to work there, and then another one because she wanted to go make her own game. I think we've done pretty well so far. I play tennis once a week, but I play with 3 of the other developers. We go out and just have game tennis at lunchtime. Some of them go to the pub. So there's a few different things. There aren't people there that are really good friends in that they go out, but they're as good as you could hope for workmates. So it's pretty good. Oh, and we give every now and then we'll go do a Costco run and come back with lots of chocolate and soft drink. People like that. All right. Anything else? Yeah.
How do you manage differences of opinions? I work in a team of 5, and we have very heated discussions, and it sort of slowly builds a resentment, sort of.
So, at the start of a project or when someone joins, you just have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. If you have that, then everyone should feel free to give their opinion. But at the end of the day, someone has to be responsible for what gets decided on. So, sure, someone might not listen to your opinion, but because it's their responsibility, then it's up to them to really think about what they're doing. Because if it goes bad, it goes bad, and they're responsible. If it goes good, then it goes good, and they're responsible. We do listen to everyone gets involved, and sometimes I'll have to make a decision, or someone else may have a decision, and we just have to live by that because there's just many different things that go into it. into a game, and someone has to be able to be held, make that decision. So yeah, we don't do anything really by committee, except when they decide what game to play on Fridays. Anything else?
How many hours have you put into the Jenkins building and all the tools around that? And
I actually don't know, because Kyle, my lead engineer, he did that all, and I'm very free with him. I just let him do whatever he wants, because he does everything that I need. So I mean, that's the other thing, I guess, for morale. If you get everything done that you need to do, then you can have time to do what you want to do. And that helps. So yeah, I'd have to ask him. If you want, you can send me an email or something. I can find out for you how long it's taken.
How strict are you on sort of timeframes for internal projects? Obviously, you're saying with clients you've got strict deadlines. What do you do sort of with internal projects in terms of scheduling and slippage?
We get to a point where usually I will make the decision when I want the game to launch, just because we're going to run out of money or I don't want to spend any more money on development. And that's a business decision that I have to make, and hardly anyone will like that. It's like, well, why that day? It's like, well, because we need to. So we do have to do that, and it's tough because you do have to cut things. It's like any kind of game development, but also it's good because then that you're also moving on to the next thing after that. But yeah, that we do have kind of we decide on a date, but that will generally also take into account whatever our PR companies advise us to do and platform holders. So initially for this game, Siegecraft Commander, we wanted to launch it in September this year, but because of everything, so with all the big games coming out, PSVR was actually a big one. Sony just said, don't release anything from now until January, which you won't get any platform support from us at all, just because they have to push, they're pushing that. So we just take that all into account. And you got all the holiday sales and things like that, so I just push that back. It's not something I really want to do. And again, also thinking of the people who are working on it. It's like, they've been working on it for a very long time, and I have to go back to them and say, oh, look, we can't launch it now. We're going to have to launch it in January, because it's an embargo on the launch date until next Monday. But yeah, it's coming out in January. So, yeah. But so what I usually do is I go talk to the key people. Like I talk to the core game designer, the leads, and say, look, this is what I've been told. This is what I feel like we have to do. And I say, is that okay? Yeah, of course they say it's okay. But I still talk to them about it and make sure it's not a big surprise. Like, oh, by the way, it's like been delayed. Yeah. Cool. Anything else? All right. Thank you.